What's up, guys? We are going to do a 2023 Bowman chase ranking. I'm going to only do the guys who have first autos coming out in 2023 Bowman. I know there's a couple of guys like Alex Ramirez, Manuel Beltre off the top of my head, who I love as prospects, but because they've already had first non-autos, I'm assuming their autos are not going to have a first stamp. Not a deal breaker, but I know people don't love them as much as the true first, so I will leave them out for now. I like to keep my list kind of geared towards the hobby. I've seen other lists of prospects to chase, but a lot of those lists are more like true prospect rankings. They account for ETA, stuff like that. I like to do it more hobby-based. We're trying to find the guys that are collectible. The guys who have cards that should be worth money, the guys that have the power, the speed, the tools that the hobby community tends to chase after in players. So these are kind of my rankings of who I'm chasing based on how collectible I think they will be in the hobby. So let's go ahead and get into that. We're going to start off with, no surprise at number 1, Druw Jones of the Arizona Diamondbacks. If you look at the tools here, we see a projected 55 hit, 70 game power, 70 raw power, 60 speed, 60 fielding, and 60 future value. Just filling up the tool sheet there. You can see that the numbers, he's gotten off to a pretty slow start in A-ball this year. He's batting 175 through 40 at-bats with a 30.4% K rate. He's definitely struggled early on, but I don't want to overreact to a small sample for a kid his age. It's really the projected tools that we're after here. His projections are just crazy across the board. Like I said, 70 game power, 70 raw power, 60 speed. That's just not a combination of projectable strength and speed that you see very often. Those numbers are similar to like an Ellie Dela Cruz or a Jackson Chourio, who we all know have just crazy hobby hype. We don't for sure know that Druw Jones is ever going to get to these numbers, obviously, but that's what the hobby loves, the kids that could get there, that have the raw talent, and Druw Jones certainly has the raw talent. Obviously, Jackson Holliday, the number 1 pick, off to a much better start this year, but I don't think that his tools are quite as loud as Druw Jones. He's definitely a better contact hitter, I would say, but he doesn't have the power or the speed or athleticism, really, that Druw Jones has, and we know that that's the stuff that helps your card market. I think that Druw Jones will be in the same ballpark as Jackson Holliday. You're probably looking at a $500 plus refractor auto when all the dust settles and the release prices come down. We'll see how much his slow start affects his prices out of the gate, but like I said, with his projected tools, I think the hobby looks past the slow start. He's without a doubt the guy in this product. Up second on my chase list is actually my favorite prospect personally in this release, and that's Junior Caminero of the Tampa Bay Rays. I know Druw Jones is number 1 on my list, but that's just because of the outrageous potential tools that he has. Caminero doesn't quite have the same speed-power combo, but he's got all of the productivity. His stats are just insane for a 19-year-old. One of the things that jumps out with Caminero is the K numbers. You want to look at those strikeouts down there. If you look at the bottom left, he's played in 4 different levels and never had a K rate over 19%. Just a really impressive bat-to-ball skills. Again, he's really young. The funny thing, it doesn't even show on the stat line here, but Caminero actually went this winter and played in the Professional Baseball League in Australia. And in 39 games, I believe he batted .303 with 14 homers. He was in contention for their league MVP, actually. He comes back here, and now he's in high A. He's batting 500. Had another 2 home run game the other night that I tweeted about. I mean, the numbers, you look down the line, his weighted runs created plus at every level, his OPS at every level, his K rate. He doesn't seem to have a fault in his swing that anyone has been able to find. He's probably the most proven hitter for his age in the minors right now. I talk a lot about Evan Carter, who is a hobby favorite, for just how polished his approach is for a 20-year-old in Double A. Well, if you go down a level to high A, Junior Caminero is probably the guy who gives me that same feeling as far as being a 19-year-old and just playing, well above his what he should be for his age. Again, he's only 19, a ton of experience for his age, and the plate discipline he's shown at every stop and ability to hit the ball, it's really impressive. Usually when we're buying 19-year-old prospects, they're a gamble who might only have, played in the complex league. So anytime you can get a 19-year-old who's already shown they can crush high A pitching and pitching in professional leagues in other countries, it's something you definitely have to jump on early. Number 3, we're going to go with Cam Collier of the Cincinnati Reds. As you can see, he's 18 years old, 6'2", 210 pounds. He's a big kid for his age. He was a projected top 10 pick, but he ended up actually sliding to 18th, where the Reds scooped him over slot. They paid about $5 million to get him to sign. He's going to be a very popular chase. A lot of the people know his name just from following the draft. He's a player that was talked about a lot. He actually went the Bryce Harper route. He got his GED early and graduated so that he could go play pro ball. He went and posted it won't show on here, but he went and posted a 956 OPS in JUCO at Chippewa. And I'm not sure if any of you follow JUCO baseball, but it is an extremely competitive league. There's a lot of talent in there. And to walk fresh out of high school and put up the numbers that he did as a 17-year-old kid, just extremely impressive. Very polished for his age. He has a small sample as a pro. As you can see, 9 games last year in the complex and 7 games so far in A this year. But look down in the bottom left, these walk rates are crazy. 20% last year, 24% this year. His patience for a kid his age is unreal. You see he has the projected 70 game power, 70 raw power up there. And as this kid grows into the kind of plus power combined with his plate discipline and hitting approach, he's got the ability to be a star. Obviously, he's very smooth defensively. As you can see, he's projected to be a plus fielder, so you don't have to worry about him sliding to DH like a lot of these young power hitters. I think the Reds just have yet another infielder that the hobby is going to love the tools on, and I expect him to become one of the most popular chases on release day, and it's rightfully so. He deserves to be. Fourth, let's go Josue De Paula of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Another one of my favorite up-and-coming prospects. I own him and Junior Caminero in just about every dynasty league that I'm in. He's on the rise. I'd go scoop shares of him where possible. He's a 6'3", 185-pound lefty who is still only 17 years old. You look at the projected tools, we have 55 hit, 60 game power, 65 raw power. Just a great combination of plate discipline and power for someone his age. You'll see he already has a current raw power grade of 55 at age 17, which is just some real pop. We saw these tools last year in the Dominican Summer League. If you look down there, 349, 5 homers, 2 triples, 16 stolen bases. I wouldn't be relying too much on the stolen base numbers. As you see, he has a projected 30 speed. He does have a big frame, and he probably won't move quite as well once he matures physically, but it's definitely a good sign that he's able to steal bags at the moment. But most importantly, you look down at the advanced hitting there. Most of the time, these 17, 18-year-old kids who debut in the Dominican Summer League, they love to swing, and you'll see a lot of even the great prospects with a 25, 30, even 35% K rate. You see here 13.9% for De Paula. Just outrageous approach for someone his age. 14.3% walk rate. You don't find a ton of guys at 17 who are walking more than they strike out. And it's not a tiny sample. You see 223 plate appearances. That's enough to give us an idea of the approach. So the hitting approach is there. The power is there. He plays for an organization that can develop prospects. Dominican Summer League stats can be tough to trust sometimes, but he came to Instructs. He got rave reviews from the organization. I think the bat here is special. Check all the boxes for Josue De Paula. Fifth, I'm going to go with Lazaro Montes of the Seattle Mariners. I know a lot of people have called Josue De Paula Baby Yordan, but Lazaro Montes really is Baby Yordan. His swing and his stature kind of resemble Yordan Alvarez. You'll see he is listed at 6'3", 210 pounds, but some of the reports when he came for Instructs a few weeks ago, they said he looked closer to like 6'7", 240. Now, granted, I'm sure the writers may be exaggerating, but realistically, he's probably like 6'5" already. You can find clips of him on Twitter hitting at Instructs a few weeks ago, and I mean, he is just a monster. He looks like he's already Yordan size, and the contact is so loud. There's no surprise you see the projected 60 game power, 70 raw power, which shockingly I think might even be low. That's how real his power is to me. You can see here in the numbers from the Dominican Summer League last year, and obviously the power numbers are outrageous. 10 home runs in 55 games as a 17-year-old. He does strike out a lot. As you can see down in the advanced hitting, he had a 33.2% K rate last year, which was bottom 10 for his age in that league. But he also had a 15.7% walk rate, which was top 10. So I'm not too concerned about the approach yet. A lot of good prospects post high swing and miss numbers in the Dominican Summer League. Hopefully he can fix some of that, but realistically, he probably does profile as someone who's going to hit for crazy power but strike out a lot. He moved well for his size last year. You can see in addition to those 10 homers, he had 5 triples. And then the metric that wows you the most, if you look down at the bottom middle, you see a 301 ISO. For those of you who don't know, ISO is a measure of raw power in your batted ball data. Usually when I'm looking at prospects, even at age 20 and 21, I'm looking for like a 200 ISO or higher. That's usually a pretty good sign that they're hitting the ball hard. Montes with a 301 at age 17 is outrageous. Like I said, swing and miss could be a concern, but the kid was posting 110-plus exit velocities at age 17. You just don't see that a ton. I expect him to be very popular in this release, and his ceiling as a hitter is extremely high. Sixth overall, let's go with Spencer Jones of the New York Yankees. I expect him to be a possible top 3 chase for a lot of people. He's flying up prospect boards. I was trying to do a price preview comp, and I was looking at some of the Prism Draft, Leaf, Onyx, some of the unlicensed stuff that's already come out that some of these guys have autos in, and his stuff is just doing crazy numbers. I mean, he's doing almost Druw Jones prices in a lot of these sets. I think Yankee fans see the 6'6", 225 pounder, and they're kind of all in on him being the next Aaron Judge, and I get it. He moves extremely well for his size. He covers a lot of ground in the outfield. You'll see he's gone 15 for 15 on stolen bases in the minors so far. Projected 60 game power, 70 raw power. No surprise there. He's big and he hits the ball far. The thing with Spencer Jones is you see the projected 35 hit tool. He does have swing and miss concerns. He had them coming out of college. There's a part of me that thinks that the Yankees saw a player with similar size and weaknesses that Aaron Judge had in college and thought maybe, we did it once, let's do it again. And if it works, obviously Jones could become a pretty serious hitter. He didn't strike out too much in the complex or A-ball last year, as you can see. 31.9% on the K rate this year, but that's only a 10-game sample. My only reservation, if you can even call it that, is going to be the age for now. His stats really pop, but it's tough to put a ton of stock in a 21-year-old hitting low-A pitching. I'll be excited to see what he does against high-A and double-A pitching this year. But even with the K concerns, his power plays, and like I said, he moves extremely well for his size. I think he ends up being yet another high-priced Yankee prospect in the Bowman world, and I don't blame anyone who goes after him because the tools are certainly loud. Up 7th, this is going to be my first reach, if you will call it. I think I'm going to be a lot higher on this guy than most people will. We're going to go Carlos Jorge of the Cincinnati Reds. I think we have an opportunity to get him fairly cheap. I don't think he's going to be a big chase, but he put up some impressive numbers last year in the Complex League. You see he did post a 26.6% K rate, which is higher than I'd like it to be, but he also walked at a 16.2% rate, which is very high. When I see the guys with high K rates, it eases my mind a little bit. For their approach concerns when I see high walk rates as well. It tells me that they're seeing pitches, they're not just swinging at everything. But if you look at the ISO, it's something that jumps out. 233 in the Dominican Summer League as a 17-year-old, 269 last year, 276 so far this year. That's real raw power for someone who's 5'10", 160 pounds. I was actually looking at the stats leaderboard, and there were 90 prospects last year, age 18 or younger, who had 100 plate appearances in the Complex League. Carlos Jorge was first in stolen bases and second in ISO out of 90. So you see there the combination of the strength and speed. It's very impressive. It's a rare combo. He does have kind of an uppercut swing. He's got to kind of use all of that frame because he's not very big, but he is very strong. People think that it might lead to strikeout issues at higher levels, but so far he's been pretty productive, so I'm not worried yet. The tools are impressive. You see the projected 50 hit, 60 game power, 55 raw power, 55 speed. I mean, he does it all really well. He's someone who I think isn't on a lot of radars now, but I can't help when I see a combination of strength and speed in terms of, the ISO. You look at the speed ratings, they're very high. I think it's just yet another Reds infielder that comes moving quickly up the prospect ranks. And I think he's going to be one of the best shots we have in this release of getting a great prospect before his prices go up a lot. 8th overall, I'm going with Roman Anthony of the Boston Red Sox. A really intriguing prospect to me for a couple of reasons. Drafted in the second round by the Red Sox, but he went over slot and signed for first-round money. Tremendous bat speed for his age. He was able to leverage that into a lot of power as a high schooler. I remember the first clip I saw him that actually put him on my radar was him hitting a 450-foot home run in the high school All-American game, blasted. The scout comp he got out of high school was a more athletic Anthony Rizzo to kind of give you an idea of the swing. The thing with Anthony is that the power and speed were not a question coming into the draft. He was the Gatorade High School Baseball Player of the Year in the state of Florida, which is certainly not something you get on accident. It's very competitive down here. The question entering the draft was the swing and miss. Now, I was not a big Blaze Jordan guy. I bought none of his cards. I still own none of his cards. I thought he would flop. The hit tool was a huge red flag for me coming out of high school. And I don't know if it was him or the Red Sox ability to develop prospects, but he has been much better than I expected him. And that actually kind of gives me a little bit of faith that they can address Roman Anthony's swing and miss concerns, because Anthony's a much better athlete than Blaze Jordan is. It's not even really that close to me. When he came in and the Red Sox said they were going to work on the plate discipline and approach, a lot of teams say that, but you look at the results so far in the Complex League and A-ball, and albeit a small sample, his plate discipline has been insane. You see the low ISO. I'm not worried about the power. It'll come. That wasn't the tool in question. He's been working on the plate discipline. He's walked more than he has struck out as a pro so far. There's a metric called swinging strike percentage, which measures the amount of times you swing and miss, and his numbers so far this year are wild. I mean, it doesn't show it on here, but he has a 3.8% swinging strike percentage. For reference, when I look at prospects, I'm usually looking at guys to post under 12. That's kind of like the bar that I set for having a good eye. When you get into the guys with the elite plate discipline, like the Evan Carters and the Adael Amadors, they usually hover around 8 to 9%. So even though it's a small sample, Roman Anthony's showing a 3.8. He's not swinging and missing. He's seeing pitches. Like I said, we're kind of just blindly trusting that the power and speed will come because those weren't the tools in question when he got drafted. But to see how much he has improved his approach in less than a year in the minors while still being 18 is extremely impressive. All right, 9th overall, let's go Edouard Julien of the Minnesota Twins. This might be an unfair ranking to Julien. He was actually one of my favorite prospects last year. The knock here is not against him, but Topps for waiting until a player debuted to give him a card. It just hurts the collectability for me. One of my favorite things about some of these younger players is I like to get in before anyone else has really had a chance to see them play, have a chance for their popularity to grow along with their card prices. If Julien had a card in 2021 or 2022, I would have been all over him. Of course, the skills have not gotten worse, but he's already in the MLB, so you miss that call-up bubble that we all love with cards when we're prospecting. But the stats are just too good to ignore here, and that's why he's still in my personal top 10. The plate discipline is pretty crazy. If you look in the bottom left under advanced hitting, you can check out those walk rates at every level in the minors. 24.5, 19.4, 19.3, 18.4, just pretty ridiculous discipline. He sees a lot of pitches. He makes you pay when you throw bad pitches. He can hit for power. He moves pretty well. He can steal bases. He's a really well-rounded hitter. I expect him to be a great MLB hitter. Again, nothing against him skill-wise. He probably should be a top 3 to 5 chase in this product. But the fact that he didn't get a card until he was 23 years old and now he's made his MLB debut, which, like I said, makes us lose that bubble around call-up when we like to make good money on our cards, it definitely hurts for me personally. I'm not saying I'm going to stay away from his cards. I'm sure I'll own a few of his autos because, like I said, I do believe in the skill and I believe that he's a good hitter, but he's probably not going to be a top 5-6 player I go after actively in this set because of the debut and the age, like I said. But if you're someone who just wants cards of the best players, I mean, this is the guy you're looking for. He's probably overall the best hitter in the draft, in this release at this moment. Like I said, it's just the fact that Topps blew it by waiting so long that kind of ruins it for me. All right, this might be the first surprise. Well, Carlos Jorge is probably a surprise, but I'm going to go Gleider Figuereo of the Texas Rangers at number 10. Not an extremely highly ranked prospect by a lot of people. You'll see he doesn't even have scout grades on there. He's an 18-year-old who made his A-League debut last year and is an A-ball this year. I admittedly didn't even know who he was until a few months ago when I did one of my data dives that I do. From time to time, I'll go and look at the Complex League, the Dominican League, Summer, the data, and see if anyone's batted ball data kind of jumps out at me. And this is actually what happened with him. Like I said earlier, ISO is the metric that measures your raw power. I said earlier that I look for above 200, when I'm looking at guys, and Lazaro Montes' 301 was insane. Well, take a look at the 2022 Complex League stats. You'll see a 336 for Gleider Figuereo. I'm not even sure how to explain how outrageous that is. If you filter Complex League stats by 17-year-olds last year, his ISO was about 70 points higher than the next closest guy. He also led that group for his age with 9 home runs and 125 at-bats. I mean, he was crushing the ball. It makes him a very interesting prospect for me. He was actually bottom third for his age in swinging strike percentage. He was middle of the pack in K rate, middle of the pack in walk rate. So I don't think there should be any concerns with his approach. You'll see he does have a 30% K rate this year, but it's a very small sample, and he's still walking over 15% of the time. But here we're playing for the power. He's an A-ball, but he's still only 18 years old. And if he continues to grow and get stronger as he gets older and he keeps hitting the ball as hard as he was last year, he's going to start hitting the ball real far. He's probably going to end up putting some gaudy home run numbers up within the next year or so. And personally, I hope it happens after I get his cards because I don't expect him to be a top 10 chase, but you just can't ignore those ISO numbers. And there aren't many kids who hit the ball that hard at that age. And for that reason alone, I think that he's worth going after. 11th overall, I'm going to go with Gabriel Gonzalez of the Seattle Mariners. He was actually 15th on my original list, but the kid just keeps on hitting, and he's really forcing my hand here to move him up. The knock that I had against Gonzalez is he doesn't really profile to be a power or speed guy. He's just a really good hitter. As we know in the hobby, you can be a great hitter and you can be forgotten if you're not flashy with the power or on the base paths, which he doesn't do a ton of. But he's just such a good hitter that I can't help but to move him up. He came out this year in 11 games through A ball. He's batting .396. The thing with him is the power is going to have to come. He projects for 50 game power, 50 raw power. 50 game power, 55 raw power. He hasn't really shown that he's able to unleash it yet. He did hit 7 home runs in the Dominican Summer League as a 17-year-old, which is really good. But since then, not a ton of power. He hasn't been running at all. I think he might be a good hitter with occasional pop. I'm really hoping that the power comes. You see the good ISO of 234 in the Dominican Summer League, but then it dipped, hasn't gotten back over 200 at any other level yet. But you look at the K rates, and the K rates are impressive. You go straight down the line. He hasn't struck out above 16% in any of his stops. The bat-to-ball skills are awesome for his age. He doesn't swing and miss, which can be, half the battle sometimes with kids this age. I love to see those low K rates. So we're just hoping the power comes. If the power comes, he could be a serious prospect. I think a lot of people might have him higher ranked in this release because he is such a good hitter. Just for me personally, I need to see either more of the power or more of the speed before I'm going to go big on someone. And hopefully those things do come for him. 12th overall is Enmanuel Bonilla of the Toronto Blue Jays, another guy that I suspect I'm higher on than most people. He will be the first prospect we have here with no batted ball data, as you see, which of course is tough for me because I do love seeing that data. I like to see the swing metrics. But on Bonilla, we're going to have to go solely off of word of mouth. We're going to have to go off scout grades, what the international scouts have said about him. It's definitely tricky, but I think 12th overall is probably fair for him. Because if we did have the batted ball data and if he is as good as some of the scouts think he might be, he probably would be higher. But again, not having that data, it's really, really hard to trust him. But I think this is a good spot for him. If you look at the scout grades, the projections are 55 hit, 55 game power, 65 raw power, 50 speed. They're really impressive. He does everything. When you look at those projections, let's say he hit them, which obviously is a huge if at age 17. Those tools would fall in between somewhere like a Noelvi Marte and a Jason Dominguez as far as, being able to hit it far and being able to move well. So, we don't want to get too excited with the scout grades projecting him to be good at everything, but it's enough to at least get you excited. Like I said, it's all we have for now. I saw a report when I was looking into him that an international scout gave him a Manny Ramirez swing comp, which, how do you not love that? The scouts seem to love him. The Blue Jays seem to love him. A lot of times with these really young guys, when you don't have any stats, you kind of have to look at, what teams were willing to pay them to try to gauge how good a club might think he is. And the Blue Jays gave him $4 million, which for a 17-year-old kid with, that's not nothing. So I think they think he's legit, and I think he's someone who once he comes to the States and starts hitting, he could turn some heads. So I think we might be able to get in on him low, as not a lot of people, people know his name, but he's a big question mark. So I don't think that he'll go as high as a lot of these guys, and I think he's definitely worth a shot. 13th overall, let's go Justin Crawford of the Philadelphia Phillies. Might get a little hate for this one. I know that a lot of people are very high on him, and I don't blame them. I did a price preview. I do expect him to be like the 5th or 6th most expensive chase in this release. You look at the projected tools, 55 hit, 45 game power, 55 raw power, 70 speed. The thing with Justin Crawford is that he gets to those tools. You're talking about an extremely special prospect, if he gets to those tools, I should say. I have questions if he hits those projections. I know he's young and he has time to grow into his frame, but I think there's a chance that those power projections are a little generous. I think it's possible that he's just a guy who is fast because, obviously the speed is no question. He might be a prototypical leadoff hitter. Again, the projection for his tools are so high that I understand the hype and understand that people will take a chance on him, but I tend to gravitate towards the guys that can hit with no question and the power might come later, or maybe the power is no question and they just need like a swing tweak of some kind to get the contact better. Crawford to me is someone where the speed will play, but you're still waiting on both the hit and the power to develop, so that hurts a little bit for me. I think he's a top 5 chase for most people. He's obviously a special athlete, son of Carl Crawford, who I loved as a player. but I know his prices are going to be high, and I think he's just too much of a project at the moment for me to warrant paying them. Again, the projected tools show that he has an extremely high ceiling, but I think that the floor is also pretty low. I know the hobby loves the gamble on guys like that, and we'll welcome him with open arms. But like I said, I see a development in the hit or power. Until I see that, it's kind of tough for me to buy in. At number 14, I'm going to go with Michael Arroyo of the Seattle Mariners. Another one of those 18-year-old prospects whose only data we have is from the Dominican Summer League. As you see, Arroyo only 5'8", but he really does pack a punch for his size. You'll see the ISO down there at 170, which is pretty good for someone at age 17. You look at the walk and the K rates. You remember with Josue De Paula, one of the things I like most about him was that approach. Arroyo very similar, posting a 16.6% K rate and a 13.6% walk rate, both very good. He does have great bat-to-ball skills. I was actually shocked when I saw the clips of his swing because he really does, like I said, pack a punch for someone his size. He hits the ball pretty far. I think overall maybe he deserves to be higher, but for me it's tough to project that kind of power when you don't necessarily have the frame to grow into it. Like I said, he's only 5'8". You look at he batted .314 and 199 plate appearances last year. Like I referenced with the strikeout rate and the walk rate, he's an extremely patient hitter for someone his age. He's shown the ability to make pitchers pay when they make a mistake. 4 home runs might not seem like a ton, but when you're 17, it's not nothing. He's definitely got a little pop there. He added a couple triples. I think he ends up being a plus hitter who, like I said, can flash occasional power, but I think ultimately he's probably limited by his size. One of the international scouts I saw gave him a Howie Kendrick swing comp, kind of that small guy that, when you throw him a bad pitch, he's going to hit it far, but not someone that you would consider, a power over hit, more of a hit over power. But the tool we're after, like I said, is the hit. Again, I won't be surprised if he's ranked higher by some people because of the advanced approach for his age. It was very impressive. I just have questions how much power I think he can grow into. But for the time being, he does look really good. He's a really well-rounded player, and I think the Mariners have yet another good one. 15th overall, I'm going to go Mairoshendrick Martinus of the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm not sure if you get a bump for having the coolest name, but if you did, he would get it. Another guy that I think I'm probably much higher than the market. He's another guy with not a lot of data, just 1 year of Dominican Summer League. You look at the projected tools: 35 hit, 60 game power, 75 raw power, 50 speed. He's 6'3". He's got a big frame, and that 75 projected raw power is elite. He batted .264 in the Dominican, 7 homers, 5 triples, 10 stolen bases. Just shows he has loud tools. He's got a great power speed combo. You'd like to see the average be higher, but he does have a projected hit tool of only 35, so that is probably going to be his flaw. He does play for the Dodgers, and I trust their ability to develop players, and I think he's kind of flying under the radar at the moment. If the Dodgers could make it click with him, I think he could be a very special player. There were 254 prospects his age who got 100-plus plate appearances in the Dominican League last year. He was tied for 6th in homers, 6th in triples. Out of 254, you kind of see that power-speed combo. He hits the ball hard. It goes over the fence a lot, even when it doesn't. He's got that speed to get those extra bases, a lot of doubles, a lot of triples. If he hits that 75 raw power, we're talking about, Lazaro Montes raw power, which I talked about how special it is. The K rate wasn't extremely high at 22.3%. But he does have an extremely high leg kick. He's got kind of a funky approach. I think the Dodgers are going to have to try to tweak that. As you see the 35 hit tool, it's kind of expected. But if they do fix it, I think this is someone who could fly up prospect rankings because that power speed combo is really good. He's definitely a prospect. He's a project with that low hit tool. But, like they say, you can't teach size and speed, and he's got both. And I think he's a great buy low and hold. 16th, we'll go Jacob Berry of the Miami Marlins. This is a guy I struggle with ranking. He absolutely raked in college. I expect that he will be a top 10 chase in this product maybe. He was the 6th overall pick, and like I said, he raked. People know that he raked. He batted .352 with 17 home runs at Arizona, which is a very hitter-friendly environment, but then when he transferred to LSU, it did not go down at all. He batted .370 with 15 homers. You see the 27 walk to 22 strikeout ratio. Just really good plate discipline, really good power. Those are tools that will play for Jacob Berry. One concern for me is that he did DH some in college, which I don't want to read into a ton, but if you DH in college, you probably can't field it all, I'd like to think. He's been working on his defense, working on his third base, but he's probably a DH, which kind of backs you into a corner as a player where you have to hit, just to get playing time, which I don't love. I like to have more paths to playing time than, strictly bat. I think he will be a good hitter, but he didn't get great reviews when he debuted in pro ball. I haven't seen anything yet that gives me a reason to love him. Obviously, the college numbers were not a fluke, but he's 21, almost 22. He's got about 200 plate appearances in pro ball. I would just feel better if I had seen something already to make me trust him. I think he'll be priced highly because of his draft position and his ability to hit the ball. He does project to be a great hit plus power combo, which we all saw in college, but he doesn't contribute anything on the base pass. He has a 20 fielding tool, so he doesn't have a clear path to any spot on a roster except for DH. I have him 16, which I guess might be unfair. He's another guy I'm probably much lower on than most. He's got the ability to be top 5 in this class in terms of hitting tools. He's just got too many question marks for his age for me. I don't see a ton of value in where he's going to be priced. And then, we'll get into the best of the rest. We got Pedro Martinez of the Cubs, Derniche Valdez of the Cubs, Braylon Tavera of the Orioles, Nelson Rada of the Angels, Brock Jones of the Rays, Gabriel Martinez of the Blue Jays, Ryan Clifford of the Astros, Xavier Isaac of the Rays, and Matt Mervis of the Cubs. This class, I don't think it's getting enough respect for how good it is. Every year there's a couple first-round picks that get held into the next Bowman release. This is probably, between Jacob Berry, Druw Jones, Spencer Jones, Justin Crawford, Cam Collier, this is probably the best group of first-round picks that I can remember in recent memory being held for the next release. And then the international prospects, I've been waiting for Josue De Paula, Lazaro Montes, and Junior Caminero cards for a year now. So to get them all in this release, with those first-round draft picks, it's an insanely deep class. I don't think people realize how good this Bowman class is because a lot of people, they know Druw Jones, but that's about it, and Cam Collier. But this is definitely going to be like a hold and see product. I think this is something that could have, multiple superstars come out of it. Like I said, it's very deep, a lot of young kids, a lot of first-round talent, and there's just too many to price. I only did a write-up on 16. I probably could have gone longer. There's probably, 30 guys that I can name on here. But a lot of it is opportunity for me, opportunity, skill set. You'll see I have Matt Mervis on here in my honorable mentions. I know a lot of people have him high. I've seen him top 5 on a lot of people's. But you look, 25-year-old prospect. The Cubs just went out and signed Hosmer. They went out and signed Mancini. They're really blocking his playing time. So to already be 25 and you have your team go out and make free agent signings that block you from playing, not something I love to see. He has the skill set, but like I said, a lot of these it's opportunity. I don't love the age on some of these guys. I downgrade a lot of them on age, but when you look at the hobby it's not always about if you're the best baseball player, as we've seen before. Being the best baseball player does not make you the highest price. You got to have the flashy tools. You got to have the power. You got to have the speed. You got to be young. So those are kind of the things that I look for. If you have any questions, anyone I missed, I'm sure there will be some arguing. This is not an exact science. Feel free to comment or DM me on Twitter if you have any questions. And as always, thanks again.